It will be recorded at this meeting. Actually, there's so many of these recordings on YouTube, on Facebook I get feedback all the time from people who I don't know, who are interested in maybe coming to meditation and they found it on YouTube. They found these recordings. So I'm really happy to do this. So if anyone has a question, please, ask.
Stuart?
Yes, Lord.
Sometimes I didn't talk in English and it's difficult, but I will try. When some blocks coming up and you have to do work, you have to do your job, and it's difficult for me sometimes, often, just not sometimes. And what we can do with those moments.
Look, as you go deeper into yourself, you uncover things that have been buried there, maybe since you were a baby. Emotions, blocks, anger, fear, all kinds of stuff gets buried there. And it comes up. And my teacher always talked about it being like dredging a river. You go into the bottom, you stir up everything, it comes up to the top, it makes the river dirty. You understand? Then you clean it out and you clear the river of all the poison that has been made it filthy and unhealthy. And this is no different. It's like, homeopathic medicine. They give you the disease in order to get rid of the disease. And you go inside, you plumb the depths of yourself, things come up. No, I'm not saying they're always easy things. They're sometimes very hard things that we have repressed inside ourselves. But then the work of the meditation comes in, where you know how to bring these things into the chakra below the navel. You know how to draw these things through the sexual area to the base of the spine and burn them up. Transform them into an open heart, into love, into something that really frees you to embrace life instead of being afraid of life. If these things didn't come up, you would be in a lot of trouble. They become all kinds of illnesses. They become all kinds of life-threatening things. That's what happens with these tensions when they're not dissolved and broken up and transformed into love. Yes, it's not easy. And I empathize with you about you saying it's not easy. But is there another choice? Otherwise, they just get buried again and they eat you up alive. So be grateful they're coming up, and be grateful that you're learning a technique that can transform all of this negative energy into something that is truly, your heart is open, there's love, there's joy, there's that joy of life. And that's what this is about. How are you going to get to God if you're so full of yourself? How does one open and be grateful to God if they're so full of themselves? So the meditation is about transforming oneself, getting strong enough to not allow these negative energies that we've repressed and buried in ourselves to take over. And yes, this is a very difficult thing. There's another one. Why me? And why am I going through this? And somebody's coming at the end of class. Why me? Why am I going through this? Why am I, But I used to ask those questions too. years ago. And finally I realized, Stuart, there's no answer to that except doing what you're being taught to do to fix it. Banshee, my class starts an hour earlier now because of the time change here in America.
Okay. Sorry, this is the second time I mixed up the time again. Sorry.
Yeah, so just fix your clock so it's an hour earlier. Okay, that's when the class will start. We had daylight savings time here last Sunday, so it's an hour later here, which makes the class an hour earlier for you. Anyway, I read in the news that the Senate in this country voted to eliminate the change of time. So now all they'd have to do is get the House of Representatives to do the same thing, and this stupidity comes to an end. Where people, you don't know what time it is or whatever. Anyway, does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I have a question, Stuart.
Yes, Pat.
When we are encountering anyone, any person, situation outside of ourselves, we're exchanging energy with that person and that situation. Would you talk about how to stay grounded in those situations?
Yeah, it's a good question, Pat. It's not easy, but you have to realize what you attract is what you give off. When you attract a negative person into your life, there's something negative in you that's attracting that energy. Now, you can manipulate it. You can have a stronger ego. You can shut them up. You can do it. But if you don't change inside, you will keep attracting that kind of energy until you change. And when you change inside, the whole coterie of people around you begins to change. And I know in your profession, it's hard. People bring you all their problems, but you can deal with it because you have changed, and their problems are not a reflection of you, so you can be grounded inside, rooted inside, and you can deal with the stuff that they have to deal with. And I realized that to myself years ago. I said, it's not the other person, it's me. I attract what I give off. And years ago, I used to work in bars and restaurants, and there were a lot of very intense and crazy people that used to work in those places. And there was always someone that you couldn't get along with. And Rudy always talked about this. And I finally said, okay, I'm going to change in myself and stop bitching and complaining about other people. And what happened was the people I couldn't get along with, I suddenly made friends with. I found something in them that was human, that I could relate to, that I could interact with. So I think, it's not the external world, it's the internal world. I mean, look, I was thinking about this earlier. I keep talking about the fact that as long as I can remember, look, I was born right at the beginning of World War II for America. It's a long time ago. And I cannot remember one day of my life where there haven't been wars going on in the world. Not one day where people haven't been starving, people haven't been poor, oppressed, living in autocratic countries. I mean, all that madness. And I realized, Stuart, I can't change the external world. I can change me. And if I change me, I will attract people in my life that, there's love, there's joy, there's consciousness. And I started doing that, of course, after I met my teacher who talked about the same thing. And it certainly saved me a ton of energy trying to fix something that maybe only God can fix. In a world where nobody works on themselves. Nobody does inner work. strong inner work, transforms themselves. And I would say maybe not nobody, but maybe 1% of the world does that, really works in depth on themselves. And if you tell this to people, they look at you like you're nuts. No, I'm going to put trillions of dollars into fixing something. It never works. It never works. I'm going to do this. We got to fix ourselves. We attract exactly what we give off. I mean, these people in the Ukraine, God bless them, you know, who attracted this kind of madness. But I really am convinced that it's an internal situation that people need to be transformed in themselves. I mean, you get a madman like that guy in Russia, you know, and it's insane what he's doing. It's nothing in him. It's all head. It's all in his brain. It's all him imposing his will on the world. You know, and people live that way in their families, with their friends, with their, you know, at their work, and their, you know, they just live that way. Never understanding that the person you've got to fix is yourself. You got to arrive at a place where you love and like yourself, you know, where there's happiness inside yourself, joy. You have the strength to sustain that. You have a connection with God. And I discovered in my life, when I arrived in that state, my whole life changed. And it continues to change every day. Every single day it changes. There's more love. There's more joy in my life than I can ever remember. So it's not the external world. It's a mirror of each and every one of us, because there's nobody in this class that sees the exact same reality. Everybody, I mean, sees a different reality. And that reality is a mirror of themselves, what they see in the external world. Now, this is really not an easy thing to accept. It's much easier to bitch and complain about everybody than to fix oneself.
Mm.
And then, you know, they have to fight wars and win and beat each other and kill millions of people in order for everything to settle down again. It's so stupid. When the answer is so clear, people have to know how to fix themselves. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, I know this has been a little heavy here. So. I see all this stuff going on in the world, and I have an answer for it, but what am I going to do, you know? I can't get on a soapbox and preach it to the world. But, you know, with all of you, I can share a lot of things I've learned in my life. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, if there are no more questions, then, you know, thanks and God bless you all. And there'll be a class on Sunday. And I know I've been away for a while, and Even yesterday, I had to not teach a class because I really twisted my ankle. I couldn't even get out of bed. But it's getting better now, and there will be classes, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. So thank you, and God bless you all. And all the love in my heart, I hope that these sessions are really helping everybody and helping them to see life in a different and maybe, more loving way and open way. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on Sunday, and bless you all. Thank you.
God bless you too.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome.